I guess I'm afraid.
There is nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Morgan.
Arthur Morgan was born circa 1863 to Beatrice and Lyle Morgan in the northern U.S. He is a central character and the primary protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2. The story contains an explicit reference to the legend of King Arthur, which Jack Marston mentions reading in the epilogue mission, The Wheel. John Marston talks about liking the names in the story and gives Jack the nickname Lancelot. Arthur's last name could also be seen as a reference to King Arthur's greatest enemy, Morgan Le Fay. Some scholars have described the Western genre as emerging out of early knight-errant literature. This allusion presents an obvious thematic connection between the Knights of the Round Table and the Van der Linde gang, both groups of violent men attempting to live by a moral code. Many versions of Arthurian legend focus on King Arthur struggling to keep Camelot together while it crumbles due to infighting, paralyzed by his own decency. Arthur's time of death carries some symbolism in itself, as he was raised by the leader of the gang and eventually died not long after its disbanding, as he gave the gang all the formidable years of his life. His death in 1899 also has its own meanings, as his values and ideas are not fit for the 20th century world, which is stated by Micah during the final mission when he said, "Arthur's been dead a long time. This is a new century." Two of the spirit animals that Arthur sees differ depending on his honor. If Arthur's honor is high, he sees a beautiful buck in the sunlight, often seen in the golden sunshine. According to the entry on deer symbolism and meaning on the compendium World Birds by Garth C. Clifford, there are a great number of symbolic meanings that are attributed to deer. In China, the deer is a sign of good luck, happiness, longevity, and fortune. In Christianity, the deer biblical meaning, because of deer characteristics like simplicity and innocence, symbolizes the faithful. If Arthur's honor is low, he sees a twisted, black-furred coyote in the night rain. According to the entry on coyote symbolism and meaning by Clifford, the general symbolic meaning of the coyote is a jokester, playfulness, adaptability, seeing the truth behind it, a complex and cunning personality, wisdom, and cleverness, often representing two sides of the same coin, being a troublesome creature, but a good fortune sign. The coyote teaches us to find the equilibrium between wisdom and foolishness, though it is not a simple teacher. In Chinese and Japanese folklore, the white coyote symbolism is complementary, while the black coyote meaning is evil, which is why the low-honor Arthur is often portrayed as the latter coyote. Despite seeming to be the protagonist of the story, Arthur wears a black hat, which is normally associated with the villain in old Western stories, while Micah, who is depicted as the antagonist, wears a white hat, which is usually associated with the hero of such stories. This reflects the more conventional view of the outlaws being evil and the law being good, and also foreshadows Micah's betrayal. Arthur is widely regarded by allies and foes alike as the single most dangerous member of the Van der Linde gang, and he is recognized and feared as its primary enforcer. By 1899, his reputation is such that fellow gang members and enemies regularly comment on his ability and stature in the gang. On multiple occasions, he is the target of attempted ambush, assassination, capture, or bribery, with Pinkerton and rival gang leaders hoping to eliminate him or turn him against Dutch and the gang. Arthur's skills go beyond those purely necessary for physical confrontation, however. A skilled interrogator, he proves capable of using not only intimidation and force, but also charm and charisma in order to elicit payment and information. He often displays a working knowledge of, or quick ability to learn, how to operate machinery or transportation, including steam locomotives. Although there is no evidence that he ever received any formal training or education, his journal entries demonstrate a natural talent for writing and art. As a child, his mother died of unknown causes, while his father was a petty criminal and outlaw. In 1874, when Arthur was 11 years old, his father was arrested for larceny. Morgan later witnessed his death and, despite a strained relationship with him, still donned his hat and kept a picture of him. During his time on Guarma, Arthur's face becomes red and sunburnt, with both his hair and beard growing progressively longer, as there is no way to shave or cut his hair. Arthur is also underweight, due to a lack of food, and he only wears one outfit, the remnants of the suit he wore during the St. Denis Bank heist. After returning from Guarma, Arthur's health takes a turn for the worse as his tuberculosis progresses. He looks increasingly sickly, and his face becomes pale, with his eyes becoming watery and red in the corners. He also develops eye bags as a result of constant coughing. Arthur also loses his muscular appearance and becomes extremely thin. Once his sickness worsens, Arthur becomes permanently underweight and cannot return to a healthy weight through any means. Unlike most people during the time period, Arthur is quite progressive in his views concerning women and minorities. He is seen to be disgusted by racism and has no qualms with the women doing work traditionally associated with men. Regarding his religious beliefs, Arthur mentions that he's irreligious, but he does appear to believe in some form of afterlife. Arthur's degradation of faith in Dutch caused him to go through an existential crisis. Because Dutch had raised Arthur since he was a young teen, his philosophy was primarily the only thing Arthur ever believed in up until the gang's downfall. As the gang fell apart, Arthur realized that social issues were more complex than he had ever thought, and that these issues were beyond the gang's ability to control. Perhaps most disturbing to Arthur was seeing how easily Dutch could influence younger, disenfranchised men such as Eagleflies to commit acts of violence for him. Undoubtedly, this gave Arthur a new perspective on his own childhood and how Dutch had been taking advantage of him. Arthur met and slept with a 19-year-old waitress named Eliza, resulting in her becoming pregnant with their son, Isaac. Although Eliza knew of Arthur's lifestyle, she accepted whatever support he offered to her and their son. Arthur, not wanting to promise anything he couldn't keep, said that he would do right by them. He would periodically visit Eliza and Isaac every few months and stay with them for days at a time. Arthur remembered fondly of Isaac as a good kid. Tragically, one day, however, Arthur arrived at their home and saw two crosses outside. He knew immediately that they were both dead and later learned that they had been shot and killed by robbers, all for $10. This traumatic incident hardened Arthur as a result, as he never truly coped with the pain and gave him the understanding to not live the life of an outlaw and expect good things to happen to him. Arthur is the second protagonist in the Red Dead series to be killed off in his respective game, the first being John Marston in the first Redemption title. However, Arthur is chronologically the first.